What value is there in the ability to tell a good story? Before written word existed, cultures depended upon an accurate recounting of important cultural events to communicate a sense of self to the community. Without languages and culture, civilization unravels. These are perhaps the loftiest goals of the spoken word. While not as critical to the maintenance of national identity, our ability to tell a story helps to extend a sense of shared experience with our audience. As always, our communication skills are critically important to our success. Once our points are tabled, will our guests more easily be able to relate to the situation at hand? This month, we're going to step back a little from the struggle and just consider a little personal perspective. It was 1989, and I had just purchased my 7th motorcycle, this time from a buddy. It was a 2-year-old Ninja 750. He had cared for it well, and it was in great shape. Maintenance was due though, and I remember changing the oil on the sidewalk out in front of my house. Time was short because I was in a hurry to get to my girlfriend's house. I buttoned things up and was on my way. At this point, I had a little tenure with motorcycles, which, combined with my youthful exuberance, made me bulletproof. Her house, it was roughly 20 miles from mine, with a good stretch of interstate in between. It's a warm summer day, and I'm confidently stretching it out a little. Not that I would ever do such a thing, but you may be surprised to learn that at nearly 150 miles per hour, you cover close to 220 feet per second. It's true. Upon exiting the highway, I soon find myself sitting at a red light. The light turns green and I'm once again twisting the throttle. Then it happened. I am no longer enjoying a warm summer's day or its clean pavement, but I am on black ice. Well, that's exactly what it felt like anyway. What had happened was that in my haste to wrap up my oil change, I had pinched the oil filter housing's O-ring. It has now catastrophically failed, dumping quarts of fresh engine oil onto the rear tire. It was everything I could do to keep from falling off this motorcycle, upon which I barely had any control at this point. This was happening at probably 40 miles per hour. The power of reflection and its sometimes scary reality. The New Oxford American Dictionary defines passion as an intense desire or enthusiasm for something. Nailed it. For me, this is motorcycling. From the time as a preschool-aged, goggle-eyed street urchin riding on the tank of my dad's Honda CB750 in the early 1970s, to the summer of 79 and him bringing my first motorcycle home in the back of his truck, a 1973 Honda XL250 Motorsport, I've been addicted. 2 more off-road bikes followed that first Honda, a pair of Kawasaki KDX 175s, but that's where Dad drew the line. Boy, the day you're man enough to ride a street bike is the day you're man enough to move out of my house. He sounded serious. It was weird though, because that's not what happened. At 18, I was driving around one day and saw a 1983 Honda Shadow 500 for sale. The bike had around 1,500 miles on it, was in perfect condition, and the price was right. I called the phone number on the for sale sign and met the seller at the bike. He asked me if I knew how to ride, and I said yes, but only on dirt bikes. He handed me his helmet and the key to the bike. Fire it up, he said. Jump on it and follow me back to my house. We are now on the interstate, and this carefree soul has invested probably far more faith in me than he should have. It was all good though, and I was hooked. I bought the bike as soon as we got to his house. Enter the street bike phase. Boy, whose motorcycle is that out in my garage? Dad inquired. Nervously, I responded that it's mine, Dad. And the craziest thing happened. Nothing. That was it. Not another word was said on the subject. That first street bike, was just what the doctor ordered. Not too powerful at all, but a lot of fun nonetheless. I quickly craved more power though, which led me to purchase a 1980 Kawasaki KZ1000 from a neighbor down the street a few months later. Now there are 2 street bikes in Dad's garage, both mine. As a side note, to this day I can't figure out why Dad would never take me up on the offer to jump on one of the bikes. Whichever bike you want, Pop. Let's go for a ride. I had extended this offer more than once, but he wouldn't do it. It's not as though he himself wasn't an enthusiast. He had been riding a long time. Heck, he had even been a motorcycle cop for years. Oh well. Just another one of those unsolved mysteries. Although the second bike was twice the engine size of the first, more power was needed still. Enter the modern performance era. Modern performance motorcycles have long been the benefactors of engineering excellence. In 1984, Kawasaki Heavy Industries released GPZ 900R. Fans of the original Top Gun movie circa 1986 can remember being introduced to this motorcycle as the Ninja 900, its moniker as it is known here in the United States. This motorcycle had a top speed of 151 miles per hour and was really the first bike on the market to possess reasonably good handling characteristics befitting its power development. Its release revolutionized the industry and it became the predecessor to the modern day sport bike. I was intimately familiar with the handling prowess of this motorcycle back in the day. A friend of mine had one. It was 1987. He and I would regularly go to work determining who had made the smarter purchase. He on his 1984 Ninja 900 or myself astride a 1985 GPZ 750 Turbo. My first new motorcycle purchased as an overstock, 2 years old but right out of the crate. These 2 motorcycles had nearly identical performance specs on paper, but were very different in reality. His motorcycle with its superior chassis, suspension, and brakes was rock steady at top speed. Mine, on the other hand, was a nightmare. The 750 would shake its head, leading to hair-raising doses of tank-slapping terror on a regular basis. This is not an exaggeration. Her tube steel chassis, 18-inch front wheel, and suspension were completely inadequate to handle the power developed by this turbocharged version of the engine. The relative similarity in the names of these 2 bikes did nothing to accurately portray the engineering differences. Then there was the difference in power delivery. The turbo was like a light switch, nothing remotely resembling linear power delivery. I remember breaking traction one evening under full throttle with the rear wheel stepping out and trying to pass the front wheel at an indicated 85 miles an hour. With a speedometer driven by the front wheel, there's no telling what the rear wheel speed was at the time. Sketchy. All these considerations aside, and despite his bike's superior handling and capabilities, my friend suffered an almost fatal accident one night as we again found ourselves in the grip of youthful enthusiasm. It was now time for something a little more manageable. This is where our story began. What's your relatability quotient? Everyone likes a good story. Mix in a little of yourself when possible. The story continues. Think about it. Good luck and good selling.